So today I'm going to talk about economics, or you can consider this as introduction to economics or basic economics, whatever. The first topic we are going to discuss in economics is about organization of production. You can consider it as in how many ways we can organize production of certain goods or services, or the requirements of the production for goods and services. Okay, so organization of production. So, what do you think are the requirements for the production of goods and services? For the production of goods and services, what do you think are the requirements? The first and main requirement is land, okay, and other natural resources. So one is land, and the second one is in the same category, other natural resources. What could the other natural resources be? It could be water, it could be forests, and it could be minerals. And the second one is labor. So for some production activities, we require highly educated workers. Okay, and for other activities, we might need non-educated workers or the ones who can do manual work too. So in labors, for certain tasks, we need highly educated workers. You can consider the highly educated workers as some mechanical engineers or electrical engineer or automobile engineer, etc. And for other labor, we need the people who can do the manual work. Okay, these are the first two requirements for production. Now the third one. Third one is physical capital. When you hear the term physical capital, what comes to your mind? Just think about it. We can consider physical capital as inputs required at each stage during production. Input required at each stage of production. So what are the inputs which we require in each stage of production? When we produce something, what we might need in each step. So the first thing we might need is tools, machine and buildings. Okay, tools, machine and buildings. So the tools, machine and buildings can be used in production over many years. So you just buy them once and you can use them for a decade or two, as long as they last. So that is the reason why we call these tools, machines and buildings as fixed capital. Okay, and in the same physical capital, this is subpart A, and we come to the subpart B. We have raw materials and money in hand. So unlike tools, machines and buildings, these do not come under fixed capital because these are used up in production. When we produce something, just in case we are producing a batch of products, take the products are X products. Okay. When it comes to tools, machines and buildings, you can reuse them to produce similar batch of products like Y products or Z products. But coming to raw materials and money in hand, we can't use the same machine because for X products, if we need wheat plus sugar, okay, we gave it to the X product. Now we take the wheat and sugar and we put it into the machine or the tools which we have, and we get the product batch X. We can use the same machine for a product batch Y and Z, but we can't use the same raw materials and money which we put into the byproduct. So this is not called as fixed capital, instead it is called as working capital, because we need this at each stage and cannot be reused. Okay, now fourth one. We have completed, we have covered three things in requirements. Okay, land and other natural resources, labor, and physical capital. Now let's move on to knowledge and enterprise. Okay, suppose you want to produce a cookie packet, just in cookie or any X item. Okay, now you have land and other natural resources. You have plenty amount of land. You have all the resources. You have labor. You have highly educated labor. You have physical capital too, which includes tools, machines, buildings, and you have raw materials too. Now, if you are a person who doesn't have any knowledge or enterprise in that respective product on how to create the respective product, you will never be able to create the product even you have all the necessary requirements, all the other requirements. So the fourth in the main, what I feel, this is the main, but it depends from everyone, it depends on perspective, but in my perspective, knowledge and enterprise is the most important knowledge, I mean most important thing which you need to know if you want to produce something. So this is called as human capital these days. Human capital. Okay. So this is the basic. This is the basic organization of production. This is how production works, and we organize it for ease of simplicity. Okay. So now, just because what we have learned till now, every production, mind this, every production is organized by land, labor, physical and human capital, which are known as factors of production. Now, just in case, imagine yourself in an hypothetical situation where you are in somewhere. Just imagine as your college, when one of your professor explains you that XYZ are the factors of production, or let me just rephrase that. The professor asks some of you, what are the factors of production? So you should never forget that for every production, it might be any production, including the data centers. Okay, for everything we need land, capital, physical capital, which consists of fixed and moving capital, and then human capital. These in total are called as factors of production. Factors of production. Okay. So now let's just get into an hypothetical, not hypothetical, but just an example to give you better understanding. I have took this example from NCERT. So because it's good, the quality of material is good over there. So now just imagine an hypothetical village called Palampur. Okay. In Palampur, the major revenue of the farmers, the people, is farming. Okay. So point number one to be noted: the land area is fixed. You might get in doubt that what do I mean by land area is fixed? Land is fixed at a right, I mean at a certain place, right? It doesn't move. But when we are talking about land is fixed, we are talking about expansion of land. So you might feel it is similar, but let me just explain to you it deep. Okay. So what happened in this village was, till 1960, there was, just in case this was a village, this is some unusable land, this is the cultivable land. Okay. What happened till 1960 was, there was some waste land which was not being used for farming, but After a certain period, after a decade or so, what they did is they optimized everything and made everything as cultivable farmland. So, in this example, when I say that land area is fixed, I mean that there is no scope of expansion. You cannot expand the land no matter what. So now the question is there a way that you can increase the production on the same land? When I mean production, it is the amount of crop per land. Is there a way that you can increase the amount of crop which we get from a land without expanding the land? Okay. So when I talk about the example Palampur, we are talking about, and just consider an village of Western Uttar Pradesh. Okay. So what these farmers do is, number one, in rainy season, also called as Kharif season, the farmers grow jowar and bajra. Okay, these are used for cattle food. It's the cows, buffaloes, for the milk. Okay, for the cattle food basically. And following this, in October and December, they cultivate potato. And then in winter season, also called as Rabi season, they cultivate wheat. And just in case if this is the farmer's land, they have just segregated a part and gave this for sugarcane to grow. Excluding the sugarcane, they plant in Kharif season jowar and bajra, and in the next season potato, and the next season wheat over this particular land, excluding this. So a certain land is reserved for cultivation of sugarcane, which they later sell it by converting it as sugar, sweet substitute to the nearby village. Consider a village. Okay. So what do you think? Okay. What do you think that these farmers are being able to harvest 3 crops a year? How do you think that these farmers are being able to produce 3 crops a year? When you just consider a Deccan plateau, the farmers are not even being able to produce one farm per year. One farm is produced at max 2 and min 1. Okay. So what made them produce 3 crops a year plus sugarcane in additional? So the main reason to be able to grow 3 different crops in here is due to well-developed irrigation system. Okay. In case of Palampur, there is a well-developed irrigation system. This is the main reason they are being able to produce 3 crops a year. Okay. So growing more crop than previous year is an advantage for them. And so if they are growing more than one crop in a year, it is called as multi-cropping. Next, in general, when you refer in farming in economics, you may hear the word called as yield. Now, what is this yield? Okay, it is a measure of crop produced on a piece of land during a season. Okay, this is a single season, not an year. Okay, so what happened in Padampur was, or you can consider this for both India and real life. Till 1960s, the traditional seeds were used. Seeds were of traditional type. So the traditional seeds used to give low yield. Okay. So the traditional seeds needed very less irrigation. Farmer used cow dung plus other natural manure. They should use cow dung plus other natural manure without any other fertilizers. Okay. They used just natural manure as fertilizer, not chemical ones. But what happened was, after the Green Revolution in late 1960s, you might have heard about Green Revolution of India in 1960s. What happened was, Indian farmers were suggested or recommended or were forced, not forced, but were motivated to use high yielding variety seeds. Okay, what happened with high yielding variety seeds was, they used to give more product on the same seed and same plant. If we consider wheat, if they used to be an X amount of produce with natural seeds, they used to be 3x produce with this high yielding variety seeds. Okay. So what happened was, farmers were convinced that they will get more profit with more items produced in quantity, and for Green Revolution we did require more quantity of food for ourselves to consume. So what happened was, all the farmers of Palampur, or say India, started using high yielding variety seeds. Compared to traditional seeds, what happened was, high yielding variety seeds promised more production. Okay, way much production. As a result, what happened was, for the same piece of land, the farmer used to get large quantity of food grains were being produced. But the problem the problem with high yielding variety seeds was that it needs plenty of water. Okay, so the villagers need very good irrigation system. And the next one was, also needed chemical fertilizers and pesticides to give best results. So the higher results were only possible when, with the combination of high yielding variety seeds, irrigation, chemical fertilizers, and pesticides in farming. So farmers from Punjab, Haryana, and Western Uttar Pradesh were the ones first to try out modern farming in India. So these farmers set up tube wells for irrigation. The government first set up an X amount of tube wells, and then the farmers got used to it and put their own money for the tube wells. So this is an example in economics to make you understand what yield is, and also some basic general information about units for calendar. So we'll continue this from the next one. I'll meet you in the next explanatory video. Bye bye.